How's it going, everybody? It's Carpo here. I just got done listening to the audiobook of a book called The Kybalion. And I have skimmed over various aspects of this work in my past studies. And I have skimmed over much of the different work in my studies towards personal growth. Many of the different systems of thought that are out there, many of the different mystery school type teachings and whatnot. I've been a major fan of Manly P. Hall, who would lay out many of these ideas, but never quite so concise and so well organized as the Kybalion appeared to be. Now, of course, this was never Manly Hall's intention. His intention was never to, uh, you know, his intention was to spread a major different amount of wealth of knowledge from a variety of sources, whereas the Kybalion is one particular aspect of it. I guess Manly Hall is irrelevant to the Kybalion, but he's where I got my inspiration for wanting to know many of these things. And during my during my studies, I found that many of the teachings out there have been confusing, obscured, and difficult to understand. And as well, I've tended to kind of scoff at much of it because it's been so, um, well, let's just say, only the initiated can really understand many of these things. And it has nothing to do with necessarily being initiated into a mystery school, at least not in today's world. Because here's the thing. In the days of old, resources were limited, books were limited, knowledge was limited to certain people and word of mouth, and these organizations and groups were able to teach an individual to find themselves, and over time they would ascend through these different levels, or degrees, if you will. And in today's world, we're able to find this on our own, and all the information is out there to seek. And once in a while, a piece of literature comes around that really resonates with me. So, back to the Kybalion. Sorry to get off the subject of it so much, but I kind of had to give an idea of where I'm coming from here. I've looked into these things, Sometimes it's easy to grab a book like this and just become attached to it and say, aha, I found the book. People have been doing this for, thousands of years. All different kinds of books. Even the big book, the good book. People get attached to ideas, and it makes it difficult to reconcile any differences between those ideas, because each person wants to think that their idea is the idea. Now, the Kybalion states in the beginning that the book will present itself to the person when the time is right. And I just laughed when I read that, because honestly I told myself if I had found that book a year ago, even though I was well mentally capable of understanding it, many of the ideas I've only put together in my own mind through my own practices and exercises and observations over the last couple of years, to where I can really actually utilize the book and understand it now. And everything in that book resonated with me. I actually listened to the audiobook, and then I ordered a copy of it right away this morning, so it's in the mail, and I have to have it. It's one of those books for my collection that's essential. The whole philosophy, and the part that really hit me, was that they call, over the last couple of years, I've never wanted to use the word God in my life, because that always implies a religious association. If I say God is watching, or God is this, or God is that, people instantly associate it with religion, more often than not. So I've always tried to figure out what kind of word do I use when I pray, because I do pray. And I don't pray for things or for gain. I pray for insight and for understanding, and for a better world around me, and for others, because that's really where the energy should go. And when I do pray, I've had this, like, what do I call this mind? And I called it the universe for a long time. But lately, in the last 6 months or so, I've just been calling it the all. It's the all. Thank you to the all. To the all. And when I read that book, they called it the all. That is the name that they came up with for this. And there were so many correlations like that. So many different things that resonated with me. So many different connections that made me feel almost as if I was there. Now, first off, the book was written in 1908. It was claimed to be written by under the pseudonym of the Three Initiates. Nobody knows who they were. There are a few different suspicions, and you can read about it online. But one person who was claimed to have written it had actually written a very similar book, but the teachings were different. And the point being that it's irrelevant who wrote it. They may very well have been three initiates into the mystery schools. The thing is, a book like that, information like that, it doesn't matter if it's in the public domain, because if people can't grasp it, they're not going to read it or care. But for those who are actually ready for that type of information, for any of you out there who have really looked into these things, I'm going to recommend this as an essential book for that library of information and knowledge. I've studied many different lines of thought, and I have looked into many different religions and philosophies in my life. But the reason why the all resonates with me so well is because it's not the book itself. It's the ideas that are presented, which are in so many other books too. It's not just that this is some exclusive idea. It's just well presented. Just like there's a lot of literature, but once in a while you find something that really hits home. And it doesn't pussyfoot around with this idea that we can try to name and label everything as an anthropomorphic figure, such as God, or that we can try to associate or assign our own emotions to this all, or to God, whatever you want to call it. And I guess the root of the philosophy is that everything is mind. All is mind. It's one of the main principles of it. There are 7 main principles. And everything is mind is the main principle. As above, so below is a principle. The idea that whatever happens in the micro happens in the macro and vice versa. And if I could step to alchemy for a minute, I've mentioned, I was really into alchemy last year, and I made a bunch of videos talking about it, how alchemy has never been about the transmutation of metals as much as the transmutation of attitudes into something better, to improve your attitude, to change the situation, to serve you better, and just make your world better. And I began wondering, why did so many of these old men actually do alchemy with lead and gold and actually trying to transmute metals? I know they weren't dumb, and I know they were aware of the symbolism behind the meaning, and I couldn't quite understand why they were doing the actual physical work. And I realized after listening to the Kybalion that they hoped that through alchemy and using plants, materials, metals to create other creations, that they could understand the larger picture by understanding the micro. That they could, through these small experiments, understand how the larger experiment works to a better degree. Completely made sense to me. I am an alchemist. I make tinctures. I love working with plants and herbs. I'm working on these tinctures right now, and I'm so grateful to live in a day and age where not only is all the information available to me to understand these things, but every plant's available, every metal's available, anything I want to work with, as well as all the information to do it. And with all these books and all this information out there, this one particular work really stands out to me as being, regardless of who wrote it or why, the reasons behind it stand for themselves. It's not making any claims. It's not saying this is what is really going to happen, or this is what should happen. It just says this is how things are. This is natural law. And through observing the world around us, we can understand it better and understand ourselves better. And while I was getting ready to make this video, I was thinking, maybe I'll sit on it for a while. Because I understand my personal cycles, my energy cycles. I get excited about something, something new comes to light, I want to share it, and then it fades into the woodwork. And all of these things that I've shared in the past that maybe have faded into the background have all been important steps. It's not about the source, it's not about finding a solution to the question. It's about a new step forward to understanding ourselves and understanding our universe without the arrogance to think that we can actually label it all. And the idea that the universal mind, they understood, people have always understood that everything is vibration. Everything's based on vibration. There are certain vibrations we can see as visible light, vibrations we can hear as sound. There are frequencies that we can sense, such as heat, light, being the same type of energy. And the universe is based on a vibratory sequence. And when people talk about the wheel being, people say the wheel is about cycles, and the wheel is about continuation, the wheel is about this. Well, the wheel in Hermetic philosophy is merely a representation for the outward expansion of varying vibratory rates. That from the center outward, it starts with complete stillness, that everything is constantly in motion. And since the universe, and we've created all kinds of names for these opposing forces we don't understand, like dark matter, dark energy, things we can't see. All of this is this cosmic goo that's all interflowing and interchanging. My example is when I'm walking down the street, I don't picture myself as being this body on this planet in space. I feel as if I'm in the universe, that I'm one with everything. I feel part of it. And it's very difficult to explain, but through time, through practice, we can all learn to understand things better. And the closer we get to that understanding, the more we're altering or improving our karmic state, if you will. And the debate can go on about reincarnation, where souls go, energies. But in the end, we're all left with only what we know is true, which is that there are things that we can do that we know are good, things that we know are bad. There are varying laws that when we break these laws, we know we've broken them. And by understanding these laws in the greater picture, I think we understand ourselves better. So I hope I've explained myself as well as I can. It's a difficult subject for me to entertain because through all my years of research, I found very few things that really hit home to where I want to actually share them with people. And usually when I do, if it's those around me, family, friends, they just, they're not really interested, because it's not their thing. So that's why I'm out here sharing this with people who might be interested. And if the Kybalion is right for you, then it might be your time too. We shall see, but just know that I'm not here saying that this is the book with all the answers. It's more of a book, kind of a modern Zen approach, and it's almost, it's missing some aspects. It's just some points that I think that people could gain from. So, salute. Take care, everybody.